I think you have to be really self-critical and with the music that you make, and not get too self-indulgent because you've had success in the past. I think that's the key, and I think you have to be on the edge with your songwriting, and be on the edge with your ability, whether it be vocal ability or guitar, bass, drums. That on the edge of your ability and pushing the envelope. And I think if you do that and you've got great songs, great guitarists, great melodies, I think people take notice of all ages.
Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Innersleeve Music Podcast, the podcast taking a behind-the-scenes look at all things music. Cassius Morris here, joined by Joe Pacheco, as always. What's going on, Joe?
Doing good, man. Doing good. A little bit of a break, right? We got some time off, some time to explore our neighborhoods and travel, as I know you did recently, right? You were here in Montreal.
That's right. We had the official SoundMojo crossover over in Montreal. I actually got to meet Joe for the first time. Right? Finally, yes. So this is something we're going to have to get into. We also got to meet up with Dre the Music Man, and I went on my side quest over to Osheaga 2023. So definitely a fascinating weekend, Joe.
Yeah, definitely, man. And you got lucky, man, because when we met, it was raining, profusely raining. And I just made what seems prophetic at this point, where I'm like, you know what, let it rain all now, and then you'll have a beautiful weekend, because it was scheduled to rain, at least for most of the festival. And it was a beautiful weekend in Montreal weather-wise, and obviously great success. Osheaga, congratulate the team here that puts together Osheaga, because it's event after event, right? So you have this one just tore down, so now it's Lasso, and after Lasso it's this, and then it's Il Sonic, which is like an electronica festival. So yeah, it's definitely well organized, and congrats again, as I was saying initially to them, is that 155,000 participants. It was sold out, man.
Absolutely unbelievable. Yes, huge shout out to Evenco and to Osheaga 2023. Hopping over to some music news, rapper Tory Lanez has been sentenced to 10 years in jail for the shooting of fellow rapper Megan Thee Stallion. For anyone who doesn't remember this incident back in 2020, Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion were involved in an altercation after a party at Kylie Jenner's residence, which ended in a reported shooting of Megan Thee Stallion in her foot. Now, there was a lot of speculation, Joe, I think, as to whether or not the story was actually even true. There were other people involved in this altercation and in the vehicle, and a lot of this was caught on camera. But it appears now that Tory Lanez has been found guilty, and this is a pretty big shock to a lot of his fans.
Yeah, man. I don't know. My first initial was, she's okay, whatever. I don't know the intimate details of the story. She wasn't killed, luckily. But she was scarred, that's for sure. She says she's never been the same since. But yeah, 10 years. I don't know. Am I wrong for feeling that that's excessive, maybe, for something like this?
Well, a lot of people are saying it's excessive, and a lot of people are still, again, speculating whether it actually happened. Now, of course, we do have to have, some faith in our systems. The LA District Attorney has reported that the fame of Megan Thee Stallion has brought an important spotlight on the issue of violence against women. So perhaps trying to make an example out of the situation. Lanez was found guilty on 3 gun-related charges in December, and he's been held in jail ever since. Now, this is definitely a sad situation to see for a Canadian artist, I would say too, Joe, because this is a guy who had a really impressive come up. He managed to sort of maintain his career in an impressive way, I would say, rather controversy-free up until a recent point, and it just seemed to have been a downward spiral from there for Tory Lanez.
Yeah, I mean, this seems to be violence against women stuff, right? So definitely, man. Like I said, I don't know the inner details of the issues and stuff, but I mean, I remember hearing about this. We spoke about it, and it definitely feels like it's a lesson, and it's a good one, man. It's a good one. Just be cool, man. Don't be stupid. I don't know if there was drugs involved, or you're a bit wasted and stuff. Maybe there was bad judgment on that part. There's also mentioned that he didn't seem remorseful at all.
Yes, that was mentioned. And of course, Tory Lanez, one of his lawyers, is saying he's incredibly remorseful. They're apparently, trying to defend his client, saying that he's being characterized in the wrong way. And there's also been a lot of support for Tory Lanez. We can't make it sound like it's just one-sided. There were apparently over 70 letters of support for Tory Lanez that were sent into the court. including a letter from rapper Iggy Azalea, who called for a sentence that would be, quote, transformative, not life-destroying.
Dude, I literally copied that and I said I was going to bring that up, and you great minds think alike. No, totally. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it's life destroying, like in a sense, yes, it is, but it's not a 50-year sentence. Cause I mean, like had anything gone wrong, it would have destroyed her life. Right. So, but yeah, I got that point. I like that. Like in the sense that it should be transformative and not life changing, destroying. Yeah, for sure.
Now, do you think that the rappers who defended Tory Lanez and accused Megan Thee Stallion of lying to this, do you think this looks bad on them? Because we're seeing here that 50 Cent has apologized for suggesting that Megan Thee Stallion lied about this.
Look, the fact that he apologized is already manned up to it. And it's like, it's always like three sides to every story, yours, mine, and the truth, right? So like, and that's why I never, and it's a fault of mine. I would say not a fault, but like it's something that bothers me because I always find it hard picking sides because I don't know all the details. So I don't want to be like jump on one bandwagon or then have to apologize and say I was wrong. Where it's like I don't have all the details, and we don't as a public. We don't. We get a bunch of stuff, and and like you said before, like we should trust in our system that like this is this happened and this is true. And like you said, even there's video evidence of it.
Very true. We also do have some more video here from the sentencing from one of Lane's attorneys.
There are many people in our community that endure acts of violence every day from people close to them and feel reluctant to come forward when this happens. I hope that Ms. Pete's bravery gives hope to those that feel helpless. In fact, today, as sentencing, through her statement, and yesterday, Ms. Pete thought of others who have been similarly situated, and I'm going to read a portion of the statement that she made to the court because I think it drives home what she has endured and what she's trying to do. And I say, on quotes, "Every day I think of others across the world who are victims of violence and survive. It is truly the most powerless feeling, especially when you question whether the justice system can truly protect you. Fortunately, the district attorney's office fought for me. I'm incredibly grateful to them and the jury for the attention to the evidence and siding with the truth. But it can happen. If it can happen to me, imagine those who lack the resources and support systems to help them."
That's key, man. Like the fact that she stood up and like a lot of people are afraid to come forward, but the fact that also that shine a light on something like this, definitely, man, it's definitely a good and like who's gonna, like I always say this, right? Who polices the police at a certain point? Like it's if the system can't take care of you, which we've seen endless times where it doesn't, but hopefully in this case it did.
I definitely hope so. And, I think it's an interesting time as well. And it's sort of an era of accountability for rappers right now. I think a lot of people are used to seeing rappers get 6 months in prison when they're supposed to do, 15 years and get off scot-free doing whatever they want. As we're seeing with, Young Thug, as we saw with Gunna, as we're seeing with Tory Lanez, it's, this is not that era, especially anymore. So I think it's maybe some changes coming in the world of hip hop.
Well, that's it. Like, and I wouldn't isolate it to just hip hop. I mean, rock and roll has had issues forever, right? Like, I mean, just speaking for us, we did a little short on Vince Neil, and when he had that drunk driving accident and killed the drummer of I forgot what band was it. I can't think of it right now, but and people are going back and forth and arguing about it. Like, oh, he didn't get any time. You should get 30 years. You should get this. But other people are like, yeah, but this and that. It was the guy's choice to get in the car with him. All that stuff, so it's not just hip hop, guys. I think in general, celebrity in general is getting a huge wake up call of like Lizzo, right? All the stuff that's happening, like getting a wake up call. Like it's only so much you can really get away with. At a certain point, people are just gonna be. If the law ain't gonna do stuff, people are gonna do stuff. And now you're starting to see all this weirdness of throwing stuff at artists, which is not a revenge thing. It's just they want to get attention, right? So I think a lot of these fans just want to get that 15 minutes or 15 seconds of fame, and then their name gets mentioned and they're trending or whatever it may be. So I think it's a wake up call to a lot of celebrities or people, in power even,
I completely agree with that. And we're curious to see what you guys think as well. Let us know down below in the comments what you think of Tory Lanez versus Megan Thee Stallion. Music icon Beyonce is making positive headlines after footing a $100,000 bill to keep the Washington, D.C. Metro open after a major concert delay. Now, this is actually some good news, Joe, and it's very good, nice to see this in the headlines.
Yeah, that's why, the news is always sensationalism and stuff. And like, I just like to see that, like, an artist that didn't have to do anything. She did her show. People paid her tickets. It was delayed because of rain and a big storm. So people were, it was forced shelter, right? I believe.
Yes.
So they had to wait like an extra. Anyway, so she paid $100,000. Well, she paid $100,000 was paid to keep the DC Metro system open. So 98 stations open so people can get home. So I think that's pretty fucking cool,
That's so insane. And it's crazy to me too that this concert even went ahead, Joe, because apparently the FedEx Field here, it says, announced a shelter in place order, like you mentioned, at 6:40 p.m., asking fans still outside to return to their cars and those already in the stadium to shelter under the ramps and covered sections. So it was such a bad weather condition that one person was actually hospitalized. And it strikes me that Beyonce not only went on with this show, because many people would have canceled, but then actually even had thought about how her fans were going to get home. I think this actually says a lot about Beyonce, who I think is mischaracterized as maybe, a narcissistic person, maybe a person who doesn't care about, the average person. I don't know if that's necessarily the case.
It's funny that you say that, because I was preparing many of our little shorts that we prepare for the channel. And there was one where obviously when Kanye came in and stole the moment from Taylor Swift, right?
Yeah.
Which is also mentioned here as well. I saw the name, which was what triggered me, Taylor Swift. But it's funny because it seems like they're so intertwined now at this point, because when she came up to get her award, she gave Taylor the spotlight to have her moment, right? And then now you have something like this where you have Taylor Swift that made Apple change decisions on stuff. Some of the record companies too for buying up her catalog. And then you have Beyonce, doing something like this. So anyways, I just thought this was really cool to talk about the fact that, like, we get it. This $100,000, she probably made it in 10 minutes at the concession stand alone.
Exactly.
That kind of thing. But still, it didn't have to be done. She didn't have to do anything.
Yeah, it's definitely cool to see, and like we talked about, sort of a different era for celebrities. I mean, does it feel like, to you that celebrities need to be more relatable or more in tune with people? Because it seems to me that there's almost becoming more of an expectation to sort of humble yourself at least a little bit, to the point like, hey, we're all human here.
100%. But at the same time, you have, I learned this when somebody told me this, man, manage your expectations, meaning what you expect from other people, it doesn't always happen. And, and it's going to piss you off, like whatever. Let's say she could have canceled the show. Well, all those people would have been even more upset, but understand maybe because of the storm or whatever the situation was. But, so yeah, I don't know. I don't know if the artist has to do anything, like, when people, the whole COVID thing or political stuff, or no, shut your mouth and just keep writing songs. Well, they have a freedom of speech, just as much as you do. So it's like, yes, they are very human. And I think a lot of them should be more relatable to their artists. But I mean, we can't really expect or force anybody, hey, you have to be more relatable, like it's kind of weird, but yeah, you should be. I mean, it's a given, right? It's like, who was it we were talking to? I think maybe Tesla for some reason or something. We were talking, and the guy was saying, like, people come after, get a babysitter, they come after a full day of work, they have to drive down, maybe have a dinner, go see the show, go back home, relieve the babysitter. So it's like, yeah, people have to plan to go to your show. So this is just a courtesy, I think, to think of the people. And the fact that it costs, if you narrow it down, 98 stations, she paid $100,000, so it costs about $2,000 an hour to run a whole metro station, if you think about it, right?
Wow.
So interesting. Anyways, that's just how my brain works. I notice these little details.
No, it's definitely interesting. Let us know what you guys think in the comments down below about Beyonce footing the bill. Hopping over to the SoundMojo community tab, of course, the spot on our channel where we pose different questions and polls to see what our audience is listening to. And here we ask, which one of these legendary producers do you admire the most? Quincy Jones, George Martin, Rick Rubin, or David Foster?
So the SoundMojo audience picked 26% for Quincy Jones, 22% for George Martin, 47% for Rick Rubin, and 4% for David Foster.
Oh.
Now, I'm assuming a lot of the people don't know who David Foster is, but I figured it was going to be either Rick Rubin or Quincy on this one, which sort of the results actually support what I was thinking, and Rick Rubin won. So why do you think Rick Rubin won?
I think Rick Rubin is just more now. He's viral today. He does podcasts. He does sort of interviews and clips that I think really strike a chord with people outside of music. Whereas the other guys, Quincy Jones, George Martin, these are guys that you really only know if you're really into music, and they don't necessarily have much else to offer in terms of connecting to people who are not. What do you think, though, Joe? Do you think Rick Rubin is really up there on the level of Quincy? Because I don't even know if Rick himself would say that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough because these are all phenomenal musicians,
They're
producers.
the best.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of almost stupid putting these lists together kind of thing, but it's fun, right?
Exactly. It's a challenge. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, it is, dude. When we're doing this, we're like, who should be go? People, anyways, I don't, I love the fact that we don't have a huge sample. We got 600 so far as the time of this taping, 641 votes. But it's interesting to see, still that, our audience sort of always surprises us in a way,
No question about that. Now, do you think that there's any room for redemption for maybe David Foster or George Martin, maybe if put up against other producers?
Surely, I think so. It's a good question, but I don't know. It's like you said, man, relevancy, he's everywhere. Me too. I see him on my YouTube whenever I'm listening to stuff. I see Rick Rubin with Andrew Huberman, or I see him with whoever, maybe Joe Rogan, obviously, and stuff. And, he has that guru vibe, right? With the beard and stuff. And, it's interesting because over the years, I was introduced to Rick Rubin with the first Beastie Boys album. When I heard that, I was like, what the hell is this? And I kept seeing the name Rick Rubin. I wasn't really paying attention to producers back then. I see Rick Rubin. Then I see Rick Rubin on Chili Peppers. Then I see Rick Rubin on System of a Down. Then I see Rick Rubin on, what the hell?
He's everywhere at that time.
Yeah, and I love it because I love so many different kinds of music. It's not like just I do metal or I do hip hop, right? Or I do whatever. So it was crazy to see that, yes, you can do it all. You can just do what you love to do, I know a lot of people, I'm sure there's some comments in here that say oh, he doesn't do anything. He just sits there and whatever, right? There's always that argument.
That's what they always say.
Yeah. But see, I don't know. When I was producing artists, if I'm working with you, I already love you. I already love what you do. Right. So I'm just going to try to make it sound the best, get the best performances out of you, and maybe suggest ideas that may or may not be accepted by the artist or whatever. It doesn't work or works. So that's why I kind of like his approach to it's just you've already got greatness. And don't forget, as we were saying, these are all top-notch producers that work with the top-notch writers, the top-notch artists. So at this point, anything they do should do pretty damn well, right?
Exactly.
It's not gonna flop. So they're starting from a high, but they had to get there. They had to get there like everybody else and prove their worth. But anyway.
No, they have to get there, but once they do, it's like the Avengers of producers, and they team up and they make these incredible projects. So, they're all individually forces to be reckoned with. And, personally for me, I think I'm partial to Quincy Jones. I remember some of the first things I ever heard about behind the scenes of music was on the Thriller CD, where they had the interviews with Quincy talking about being in the studio. And I remember that was the first time I ever thought about there's other guys in the studio as a kid, except for the singer. So I always just found that fascinating, and also a TV producer as well, Quincy Jones. So a lot of respect to him.
Quincy, man, I love him because, and not only that, but this guy was doing the jazz, some wicked soundtrack stuff, funk, all kind orchestral stuff. He's on another level. George Martin, the Beatles, right? Everybody knows George Martin, the Beatles. David Foster. Were you aware of David Foster when we put this together?
Not very much, but then when I started looking at his credits, I realized I was like, oh, I'm a big fan. I didn't even know I'm a big fan.
That's it. Well, we'll flip here to David Foster on Wiki. And this guy's been at it. And if you watch, there's a movie about David Foster, sort of documentary on him. And it's interesting because to be at this level and to do and work with these artists, and apparently he's a lot of people have called him an a-hole in the sense he knows what he wants and he's a tough producer. He's not just going to say, oh yeah, bow to the artist kind of thing, No. Like Bob Rock. I just saw Bob Rock arguing with Metallica, right? Back in the day in the studio, because everybody just wants to get the best product out, right?
Exactly.
So if you look at this guy, like, sorry, I was gonna finish the idea I had with the documentary. Is his daughters talk about him, and he wasn't around for so many birthdays. They didn't know who he was, barely knew him or did know him. But when he was around, yada yada, he would get calls in the studio. Have to talk to them and get them to bed or whatever. It's cute. It's awesome. And meanwhile, he's working with Barbara Streisand, and like, or Celine Dion, has to be a father to an extent, right? At a distance. But man, when you just look at this is his own discography here, right? But when you look at the people he's worked with, like,
holy smokes, man.
Yeah, it's like Donovan was a big name back. Leonard Skinner, like, come on. Kim Carnes was a big name. Neil Sedaka, another Ringo Starr. And I'm Paul Anka. Like, it's Rod Stewart, like
Olivia Newton-John.
Michael Jackson, Off the Wall, like Thriller, Boz Skaggs, Earth, Wind and Fire, Dolly Parton. And I'm going to skip it about 20 years because he was busy all those 20 years. Donna Summer. And we'll go here.
Seal.
I love Seal. Like Michael Bublé, Diana Krall too, I think he worked with. Barbara Streisand, Celine Dion, Natalie Cole, Madonna. Like, come on. Like, and that's what I'm saying. Like, you realize, wow, I like this guy because he's been producing all the stuff that I like, over the years. So
he's been on it relentlessly.
Yeah, I mean, look, we can look up any of these guys, right? I'm sure if we look up Quincy, right? Quincy Jones. Let's see. And probably just, if not even more impressive.
Yeah, maybe even more.
Like, if we look at his discography, look, these are film scores and soundtracks.
Wow.
So we're talking from 65 to 77, and then filmography, I'm like, wow, they don't even have the discography here. Here we go. There you go. Oh, no, you have to go to another page.
Its own section. Holy smokes. That's insane.
Look at this, man. Like, it's crazy. Like, how much stuff he's worked on.
Platinum, gold.
Yeah, as a sideman on top of that, like.
It always amazes me too, the producers who actually know how to play instruments as well. Like it really takes you to another level, clearly. Yeah.
So anyway, it's just it's a fun deep dive and see what these guys like are capable of doing, and what they have done. I mean, I don't even want to look at Rick Rubin as well. Actually, I do.
Yeah, why not?
Let's see, Rick.
See, this is cool for me because I know like peripherally about what he's done. I know like the Jay-Z stuff, Beastie Boys, but
look at that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
No, exactly. And what's to come still of what he's gonna produce.
That's right. He did Black Sabbath 13, great record.
Yeah, look, even filmography. So Beastie Boys music video, stuff like that. Oh, yeah, him too. He has a discography section. Let's see.
Wow.
Look at this. 1980s.
Wow.
By decade. So Public Enemy, The Cult, like that's a rock band.
LL Cool J.
LL Cool J. Danzig. Like,
wow.
Slayer, South of Heaven. I love that album.
That's a great record.
Andrew
Dice Clay too. He did.
Yeah, Rain
That's
and
crazy.
Blood, Jazzy J. And then we'll go to the 90s. Look at this. Wow. Holy cow, man.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, Andrew Dice Clay, like you said again. Like Red Hot Chili Peppers. Like, it's just crazy. Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, The Cult again, Danzig again, Mick Jagger,
Johnny Cash.
Yeah, it's insane, man.
Definitely some of the greatest records of the 90s in there too.
And 2000s. Look at this.
Wow.
Aerosmith.
2000s, he was on a run. Holy smokes.
Look at that. System of Down, Toxicity. I love this album. Eagle Eye Cherry. What else? Shakira. Johnny Cash again. Neil Diamond. Limp Bizkit. Oh, greatest hits. Shakira. Look at this, man. It's crazy. And then wow, Linkin Park. Wow. Anyway, ZZ Top. Like, you said 2013, right? Should be Black Sabbath. I don't see it. Oh, there it is. Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's insane, man. Insane. Travis Scott.
Oh, he was on the new album. There you go. Well, that makes sense. And honestly, I think that when you sit down and look at it like this, it just gives you a whole new perspective on like what these people do. Cause like we've talked about, there's too many songs and things going on to take it all in at once. So, you'll know of one song he did here, one song there.
Yeah. Well, look at this. Just let's look at 2013, right? So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 albums. Like 9 albums.
Smokes.
Obviously, like, see, there's a difference between like if you had to write these songs and then you had to record them, you had to mix them, you had to get them mastered, whatever. So like he could be working on 3 albums at the same time, right? You spend 3-4 days, then they do their tracks and you pick the best takes or whatever, like, so he gets to do a lot and you become a lot more prolific. But I mean, you still got to be there, man. You have to manage those egos. You have to make sure you get the best performance out of them, and look, it's consistently hit after hit. But like I said, he gets to pick from, a good crop, right, of top level artists.
His poll is one of the hardest ones.
Yeah, he did Metallica. It's true. Death Magnetic as well. Weezer. It's crazy, man. Crazy stuff.
Let us know who you guys prefer down below in the comments from the greatest producers. This past weekend was Osheaga 2023 in Montreal, Canada. Of course, one of the biggest festivals in North America. And I was off on a side quest to go and check it out over at the festival grounds. And holy smokes, Joe. I just actually read in the press release from after Osheaga that there was 155,000 people in attendance this weekend, which makes it probably their biggest festival ever.
I think so. Like it's like what, 55,000 people a day,
yeah,
wicked. Yeah,
absolutely insane.
So before we get talking to like about the specifics of the weekend, did you get to see any Montreal or anything, or were you just like, they locked you in, right? They locked you there.
For a lot of it, yes. I actually did get to see some of Montreal, though. I got up early. I got myself walking around. I have to say, and I'm sure we have some viewers from the city. Absolutely beautiful city, Montreal. So calm. You know what I mean? I love that there's sort of a nightlife and party element to it if you seek it out. But otherwise, I feel just a very calming feeling in the city. And it's a very nice place to be.
Yeah, well, we'll just specify you were in Griffintown, which is sort of like a new redevelopment over the last like 15, 16 years. And I myself hadn't been there in a long time. When I went to go meet up with you, I was like, wow, this is like really nice, trendy, nice and new, clean, because I'm used to seeing like, especially in that area of Montreal, it was, slummier and like more abandoned because it used to be a lot of like manufacturing and companies and stuff. So now they've revamped it and venues as well. We went to eat nearby and there's a great venue that I seen a lot of shows there, the Corona Theater. So yeah, that was cool, man. So yeah, back to Osheaga, so what are like, okay, like what's a takeaway from you, like a favorite highlight you had?
Okay, favorite highlights. Well, first, one of the main guys that we saw was Lil Yachty. And this was a set I was really interested to see, Joe, because Yachty is an artist who's drastically changed his sound with his past record. He went from sort of typical trap hip hop music with very basic lyrics to a full band, singers on stage with electric guitars, live acoustic bass, drums, and doing basically rock music. And it was really interesting. There was even people posting online. One guy said, I went to see Lil Yachty. I ended up seeing Lil Metallica, just because his music was so different. And I have to say, this was one of the standout sets for me because it was experimental. His sister was one of the background singers. And we actually got to see him walk off the backstage as well. So that was a cool set. Another set that stood out to me was The National. Is that a group that you're familiar with, Joe?
No, so many groups, man. I feel
so many
like
groups
left behind at this point.
I completely agree. This was a cool, interesting band. Their singer came out in sort of a suit, really a different band than anything I've ever really experienced or listened to. It really gave me pub and bar vibes, but on a big scale stage. And the guy put a lot of emotion into his set. I have to be honest, I wasn't really into the sound at first, but I gave them a chance. And by the end of the set, I was clapping. I was absolutely blown away. Okay. So these guys were on before Baby Keem, who of course is the rapper who's Kendrick Lamar's cousin. So these guys had a pretty big set. And then right after that, on the stage to the right, Baby Keem came out. Now I got to tell you, Joe, The National was a nice, relaxed group. There was like people with their kids on their shoulders who were like 5-6 years old. The second Baby Keem came out, mosh pit started, and I just saw everybody with kids making a beeline to leave the crowd. They were out of there, and then everything changed. It was quite funny. It was fascinating. I think it really provided for a full encompassing experience when it comes to the world of music. There was basically every genre of music I could ever think, from world sort of classical to, acoustic to electric to rap. it was really, really interesting, and people from all around the world performing. So, for me, I like the fact that it wasn't just one genre and you could really see all that diversity within the crowd. It was really cool.
Nice. And I just wanted to bring up, we had some SoundMojo artists that did a nice 2 sets, actually. They played twice at Osheaga, Paul Lazarus. You got to check them out, right?
Yeah, I got to check out Paul Lazarus over at the Sirius XM stage. They were talking with fans and all that stuff, and just sort of kept my distance, caught some video. I thought they were phenomenal. I thought it was really cool to see them do what they do. We were blown away. And again, the Sirius XM stage was one of the more intimate stages. It was smaller and it was sort of away. So I actually, that was one of the best parts of my weekend, was just going over there, and Paul Lazarus just happened to jump on the stage. Definitely, overall great sound, great experience all across the grounds. The one artist that I saw that I wasn't well versed in, Joe, was Billie Eilish. I don't know. Do you know her music? Because I really don't, up until now.
I knew the first album when it blew up there, and I was all into it, the brother Phineas, the producer, and like the whole found sounds. And I've always I love that kind of, making your own sounds kind of thing. But to be honest, I haven't kept up with her since. So yeah, what was that like?
That was really cool. I have to say, I'm pretty sure Billie brought in the most aggressive crowd of the weekend. There were people lined up for hours before the gates even opened. They were running and flooding in. Hadn't seen anything like that through the entire weekend. And every single person I talked to on Saturday was there to see Billie Eilish. I think she's 21 years old.
She's crazy.
That's the thing. She's bringing 50, 60, 70,000 people to a concert at that age. I think just that is remarkable. I think for the age that she is, she's a really solid performer. She knows how to work the crowd. She talks to the crowd. She keeps them engaged. She had some surprise guests come out. She had some surprise music. I really think that when you see Billie Eilish, you see an artist who doesn't take her position for granted. She seems very much excited to be in the position she's in. And, that's refreshing to see, Joe, because, an artist like Kendrick Lamar the next night was a drastic contrast. This is a guy who's sort of like, hey, I don't care about you. I'm a god. I'm this, I'm that. So it was, again, the difference in genres were very much defined.
Yeah. So I know you, I think I saw you waiting at 12 o'clock noon front row there waiting for Kendrick. So how was it?
Yeah, that was funny. That was actually a gag, but we had to do that just as a joke. We did end up with a pretty decent spot for Kendrick though, and I have to say that was my favorite artist that I saw the entire weekend. We got to see him walk onto the stage. He had a very strange outfit on. He had these pink sort of short pants. He had a do-rag on, and the entire do-rag bandana was just different pictures of his face, which I thought was very interesting and strange. But, he came on, and I got to say, just his whole aura, his whole energy is very specific, and it's very interesting. He didn't take his sunglasses off once. He basically just stood still and rapped. And the thing about a Kendrick show is he's not theatrical. He's not animated in any way. So all the emphasis is on his voice. The only thing you're paying attention to is his raps. So it was really fascinating. He had a big painted backdrop in the back. He had dancers on stage, which we'll show you guys all these videos now as we're describing it. And I have to say, Joe, it felt like watching a live painting. That's what his set looked like, with the dancers and the contrast from the art. So
he didn't have any musicians. It was literally he's rapping to a backing track with dancers.
Now, that was the one thing I couldn't tell, because I could hear acoustic instruments and they sounded live, but there was no one to be found. There was the massive backdrop where you couldn't see anything behind it. So if there is a band, it was back there. But the one thing I respect too is he did not rap to a track of his voice. There was only the background vocals, but other than that, it was completely live, which I think is very rare.
Well, I'm surprised because last week or 2 weeks ago, there was the, what was her name? Cardi B, right? She threw the mic at some girl for water. But meanwhile, it's rapping, her whole, she's still singing, right? She just whipped her mic at somebody,
Exactly. So, yeah. She didn't even need the mic in the first place.
Exactly.
But no, I'll tell you, it was phenomenal. So, overall, I think my top artist from the weekend would have to be Kendrick. And I think his cousin Baby Keem was the next one. I think the Lamar family, Joe, they got their finger on the pulse of the music industry. Did you catch Osheaga 2023? Would you like to go in the future? Let us know down below in the comments, and let us know which artist sounds the most interesting. Hopping over to our guest portion of today's episode, it was a pleasure to be joined by Biff Byford, of course, the frontman of Saxon, talking about their latest EP of covers. And I got to say, Joe, this was a really awesome conversation. Just great to see how into it Biff still is after being, in the music business for 35, 40 years. You would swear he, is still in it for 5 years, because he doesn't seem jaded by this in any way.
No, man, he's so motivating, to see someone like that. And his voice still sounds fantastic. Live, I've seen some stuff live and I'm like, wow, man, he doesn't have any Vince Neil syndrome in his voice at all.
Definitely not. Make sure to go check out the latest Saxon project. We have the link in the description down below. And of course, make sure to drop them a follow. Let them know that you saw this interview here at SoundMojo. And we'll catch you guys right afterwards.
Get up, everybody's gonna move their feet. Get down, everybody's gonna leave their seat. You gotta lose your mind and get drunk. Rock City.
Biff, thank you so much for joining us on this brand new episode of the Innersleeve Music Podcast. How are you today?
Good, actually. Sun's shining. Everything's
Awesome,
good
man.
here in the UK.
We love to hear that. What part of the UK are you calling from today?
Yorkshire.
Very nice. Now, obviously you guys are an international group, but if you had to describe the local music scene in a place like Yorkshire, maybe how would you describe something like that?
Well, it's a university town, city, so there's quite a good rock scene. I wouldn't just thought there was many sort of heavy metal, heavy rock bands around, but there's a good music scene. Lots of singer-songwriters, lots of different music happening. But there are some heavy rock bands around. But it's a pretty good scene. Lots of bands and artists busking in the streets when it's sunny. So it's a fairly musical city, really, York.
I love that. I mean, after so many years, does it make a difference for you, like whether the city you're in is very music oriented or not? Or is it just, you're on tour and you can just sort of do your own thing?
Well, I live in the countryside outside York. I don't actually live in the city, but I'm in the city every day, basically. But, I think it's good to be, to be in an environment that's, the countryside for me is where I've always lived. I was born a country boy, so I remain a country boy, really. But I think the city is there's some cities that produce great music across the years from the UK, definitely.
Yeah, no question about that. So in terms of Saxon with the latest project, of course, you guys have more inspirations, which came out, a continuation of covers that you guys have put out. Some awesome covers on this record. Maybe talk to us about the inspiration behind putting this together now and sort of how it exactly came about.
Well, the first one came out during COVID, during the pandemic. I think it was just sort of a stopgap between our next new album, which turned out to be Carpe Diem, Seize the Day. So we, the record company said, you fancy doing a covers album? We said, well, we don't really want to do a covers album per se, but we'll do an album that's sort of based on our influences and our inspirations. So the songs that we picked are, because of that, they're a bit strange. They're not the usual songs you pick of those artists. And I think, it's the songs we were listening to when we were teenagers and later that sort of inspired us and influenced us. So that's the idea behind the second one. We just had so many ideas left. So we thought we'd put some more together.
Will there be a third to make like a sort of a trilogy?
Will there be a third? I don't know, really. I don't know. We've they're very, they're great fun to make, and they're quite easy because we don't have to write anything. We just have to sort of arrange them and play them well and, try and get Saxon's sort of sound and spirit into the tracks somehow. So that bit's difficult, but I think the the learning the songs and the lyrics are quite easy. So we spend more time on trying to create atmospherics and things within the song. We're trying to bring something a little bit different. You know, a lot of the songs from the 60s and 70s. So you know, we're obviously we're an 80s band that have developed over the years. So we bring a more sort of I think a bit more aggressive and a bit more technical edge to some of these songs.
How do you know when it's like, oh yeah, we've nailed it, this is how we want it to sound?
Yeah, I think you get to that really. You know, when you do the sound of things. But obviously, when the vocal starts to go on, then you really can tell if it's going to be, you know, something that you can live with or not. Yeah. So,
Right.
but I mean, if the songs don't sound right, then we wouldn't use them. So, you know, we don't have to release a covers album. We're just doing it for fun, and you know, we're bringing people like Alex Harvey and things. We're bringing them to a newer audience, I think. Obviously, not some of the bands people already know them, but some of the bands, you know, some of the younger fans probably haven't heard of them.
Well, yeah. I mean, it goes all the way back to, you know, Cream and a lot of groups, like you said, that are, you know, way before even the typical names you hear today. You know, I was curious about that, by the way, that you mentioned that you did songs that typically people wouldn't cover of the bands. And, you know, the Tales of Brave Ulysses is obviously like a very niche song. You know, like, was it hard to pick which songs you guys were going to use from a given band?
Not really, because we picked the song we liked, you know, that we used to listen to on repeat, you know, on the vinyl or the cassette or the 8-track, wherever you had back then. So, you know, we, you know, Tales of Brave Ulysses is it's a great track, quite proggy in a way. I mean, some people say, you know, why don't you do Sunshine of Your Love, or, you know, but those songs are just, they're more popular. And I think we, as a band back then in our youth, as musicians, we listened to the deeper cuts, you know, on the albums as well. And it's just how we were, really. So every song on the album, on the last one and this one, has a connection somewhere between the band members and the band. For instance, the Animals, you know, We Gotta Get Out of This Place. That's the first song I ever wrote that started on a bass guitar, and I was a bass guitarist in the early days, so it just appealed to me, that song. You know, I was learning to play the riff.
Yeah.
So, you know, I just thought, I'm going to put that one on because that song really influenced me, definitely.
Are these some of the songs that when you guys initially got together as kids and said, like, yeah, let's pick 5 songs and jam in a room?
Well, we did jam a lot of the stuff, you know. I mean, really, I wasn't together with the guys I'm with now. I was more with school friends, you know. The first band I was in like a youth club, you know, and I played guitar at that time pretty badly. And I think we did, you know, a couple of Rolling Stone tracks and some of the big sort of pop rock tracks of the day, really. We tried to do them anyway. But, you know, the girls seemed to like it at the youth club, so, you know, we were.
That's what matters at the time, right?
Yeah, it's all that matters at the time. You know, get a little bit drunk and you know, get a new girlfriend. That was all the key then. You know, when you were like 16, 15, 16.
So this must have brought back memories then. I mean, of going back to these times, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think all these type of songs bring back memories because they're all connected to, you know, for instance, the Kiss song. You know, Nigel, the drummer, was a big Kiss fan, so we put that one on for Nigel, really. It's my favorite Kiss track.
Probably their best track.
Well, I don't know if you're a Kiss fan. I'm sure you've got lost. I wasn't really into Kiss in my youth. I don't know why. I just didn't get it. But it doesn't mean to say they're not a great band. And, you know, we know the guys. And they're great songwriters. And Detroit Rock City is a great rock song. And, you know, there's about 15 different versions of it. So, you know, we did a different sort of version of it, you know.
Definitely. So, I mean, did it take long to figure out exactly how you guys wanted to do your renditions, or did it take longer to pick the songs?
No, it didn't take long to pick the songs. I just made a list and sent it to the guys, basically. said, "What do you
Yeah.
think of this?"
So that part was pretty.
And then
easy.
they sort of, said, "Well, can't we do this one?" I think Doug, the guitarist, wanted to do a Jethro Tull song, and we did try it, but it didn't make the album for whatever reason. Yeah, it was just somebody has to start the list. So I started the list, and then we took things off, put things on. But yeah, it's a good process. I think it doesn't take long to do it. I think maybe 2 weeks, from the inception to the actual. We rehearsed them live, to get that sort of live sound to it and the arrangement live, and then we recorded it, and that's what we did. Dancing through the turquoise, and the footprints make you follow where the sky loves the sea.
Does it sort of take on a new life when you guys bring these renditions to the stage?
Well, the thing is with Rhythm and Naz, we used to go and see Nazareth back in the day at the local theatres, around Sheffield, which was a big city. We used to go to Barnsley, was another place they used to play, and Alex Harvey was around the same time. So we'd go and see Nazareth, and they used to start the show with Rhythm and Naz. And then later on, 1980, just before we broke quite big, we toured with Nazareth. So, we have a lot of memories of Nazareth. And that song was probably one of the first songs that I heard about the audience, Rhythm and Naz You Tonight. It's very connected with the audience. And I think Nazareth influences quite a lot back in the day.
Would you say Nazareth is a pretty underrated band? Because they seem, at least from my perspective, to be somewhat underrated. I
think they had a great career around that album time, Rhythm and Naz. They were pretty big in the UK and Europe, and I think they did tour America, but they didn't break through as big as some of the other bands did. So I think maybe, they got forgotten by the sort of the newer fans, if you know what I mean, in the 80s. I think the 80s sort of came along with Maiden, Saxon, Motorhead, and Whitesnake, and Judas Priest, and all those bands became really massive in the 80s. And I think bands like Nazareth, I don't think they got the popularity that they deserve, really. I think Deep Purple and bands like that seem to carry on and do, bigger, So I don't know why. But I think it happens. Alex Harvey's another case. They were a massive band in the 70s, selling out everywhere. And, some people don't really know who they are,
Yeah, no question. I mean, how would you say that's going today? Because we see, so much of the 70s, 80s, and even 90s culture. It just seems to be making, such a big impact in today's time. Do you see that sort of coming back more and more?
I think the secret to longevity is to try to release albums that that people like. I know it's a stupid thing to say, just like that people like, but I think you have to be really self-critical and with the music that you make, and and not get too self-indulgent because you've had success in the past. I think that's the key, and I think you have to be on the edge with your songwriting, and be on the edge with your ability, whether it be vocal ability or guitar, bass, drums. Right on the edge of your ability and pushing the envelope. And I think if you do that and you've got great songs, great guitarists, great melodies, I think people take notice of all ages. And I think that's the key, really, because, you can't, I don't think you can keep touring on the same hits. You have to have a new product all the time, I think. And I think that's the secret to longevity. And I think maybe Alex Harvey, they stopped really. Nazareth, I didn't really hear any of their later albums in the 80s and 90s, so I lost them. I didn't know where they were.
Yeah, even like here in Montreal, Canada, where I hear that song a lot. I hear a lot of Nazareth, maybe the two biggest hits, but that's about it, but like they consistently played them, but for some reason they just seem to have disappeared,
Well, you've got Love Hurts, haven't you, which is an absolutely massive song. I don't really know. I mean, it's the same. I hear Nazareth sometimes on the rock shows, but you don't hear them as much as, some of the other older bands like Rainbow or Purple, or, you don't hear them as much. And back in the day, they were on radio all the time.
Well, speaking of you guys have been consistently putting out albums either what I noticed, like when I looked at the discography, was like either every year at the time, and now every 2 to 3 years there's an album out. I don't know, man. Like, I've been at this for a long time as well, but how do you stay inspired? How do you keep it fresh, new?
I think all the music, the riffs comes to me, yeah, and I choose what excites me. Basically, that's how it works. And the things that people like, whether I write it myself or whether we all write music. But basically, for me, a great rock track starts with a great guitar riff, or starts with something that's right at the beginning. Could be a synthesizer, keyboards, could be drums, could be vocal, somebody screaming. But I think that's the key that sets me off. That sparks my excitement, and then I write a song around that. So I've got loads of ideas of titles, and what I'm doing is I'm looking for some music that fits my title.
Okay,
if you know what I mean.
So you have a concept already.
That's one of the key elements of Saxon music, is that the arrangement and the melodies are led by me. So it sort of comes out the other end. It usually comes out the other end quite exciting, because I'm not picking something because it's easy or hard. I'm picking something that sort of excites me. So the guitarist will say, "Jesus, that guitar riff, that music is really difficult to play." I'm going, "Yeah, but they're going to love you when you play it."
Exactly.
They push their technical ability to the max on it, and it works really well.
And I'm just curious, what's a writing session like today compared to what it was like back in the day?
Well, writing sessions these days can be all together and they can be remote. It's just that because we're just looking for guitarists, originally guitarists, they'll come in, and then we might go into a studio together and then arrange a song around it, or I might send the file back to whoever sent it and say, "Can you try this verse, with this melody?" And so it's all mishmash, big melting pot type thing. Nothing's ever finished until you can buy it or stream it. That's the key. I'll change things around right up to the last minute, keeping it flowing free. The last album, I think I moved lyrics from one song to another.
Wow.
Because I prefer the other one and moved it across. So I think you can do that. You have to be very on it and really, really know every inch of the music, be able to do that.
Is that very different from how you guys used to make records, though? Because was it like that in the 80s?
Well, in the 80s, we just go into a room and batch it out, but the same principle. We wouldn't take a song further on unless the riff was good.
Yeah.
So back then, we had lots of ideas throwing around, and people were like, excited, and we're trying to create this new style of rock music that was like fast and melodic, but not sort of long, drawn out instrumental parts. Just 3, 4, 5 minute songs that sounded great, and you could remember. If you hear them once, you remember the song. And it was the same principle, really: guitar riff, melody, verse, chorus, melody. So we're all working together, and we do the same thing. We just do it sometimes remotely. And we've been doing this since 1979, and we've moved through all the technical innovations. With digital and everything, and so we've moved along. We're not we're not in a little room with a 12-track tape recorder anymore. We can use analog, we can use digital, we can mishmash it all together. We're very knowledgeable when it comes to recording and using profilers and using just Marshall cabs. So we're experimenting all the time. Whatever sounds great, we use. That's the key.
So you're very hands-on yourself. You're tracking yourself for the demos and stuff.
Yeah, I'm doing it at the moment. Actually, I've just walked out of the studio. So yeah, I'm doing some.
Wow.
I'm doing some sort of. Now I'm just going to be doing the drums in Germany remotely. So we've got some stems on Pro Tools, and we'll send him to him, and I'm singing along and telling him where all the parts are, chorus, bridge, so he can go at full power without even thinking about it. But yeah, that's what we do. We'll do that. We don't have any other time to do it because it's so busy. We just have to snatch bits where we can, really. The same as Carpe Diem. I think keeping the excitement level high and doing it in one take as much as you can, 1 or 2 takes. That's what creates the live excitement of the track. So it's important that I'm not singing 50 different vocal tracks and picking words from different things. We don't do that. I'll sing the track 4 or 5 times and we'll just pick the best lines or even the best performance, and that's how we do it. So it retains that sound as if we're all playing together, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Do albums take longer to record and make now? Because sometimes people blame digital because now that you have all the options in the world, you can take a lot more time. But as you just stated, like you just like to nail 4 or 5 takes and choose the best.
No, I think basically, as long if you have a great drum sound and it's live sounding, we're recording an old cinema in Germany, which we've been rehearsing in, so it sounds fantastic.
That's cool.
We'll get that. We'll just put the guitar, bass will go down at the same time. Guitars will use, 3 or 4 different amplifiers, 3 or 4 different cabs, and the secret is what we do is I'm giving you all the trade secrets now. You record what they call a DI track at the same time, which is just record straight from the pickups on the guitar. So if you want to reamp it, you can put it back through a Marshall amplifier or a 5150 Van Halen, or you can put it through a Vox AC30 or any amp you want at a later date. So I think that's what's brilliant about digital. You can record analog, record the cabinet at full power. But you can also have a little DI running where you can have any sort of sound you want mixed in with it.
That's what I love about it, because I remember like recording with bands and like you'd have to have that Marshall blaring for 7 hours for the guy to get his take, whereas now you can do it in a nice closed environment, just reamp it once.
Well, it's not that easy. I mean, we do have the cabs set up in a barn next door. So we have the cabs running really loud with microphones, obviously. We put a Marshall cab in a big box with 2 microphones in it. And then we put a Marshall cab in the room, so we get a room sound. It's just that if you want to, if you're in like an arpeggio part, like a really loud volume, if you've got a DI of it, you can put it through harmonizers and things and just generally, color the sound a bit loud. That's the beauty of it.
When it comes to you guys' road setup, do you guys typically stick with the same setup and the same sort of crew, or is that something that changes quite a bit?
No, we tend to have the same crew
Nice.
all the time. We have quite a lot of German guys in our crew because we, for a long time we were signed to Virgin Records in Germany, and we did quite a lot of albums in Germany during that sort of wacky 90s period.
Mm-hmm.
Late 80s, 90s. So yeah, we keep our equipment there in the warehouse. So yeah, our live setup is, I think our live setup basically is between 8 and 12 Marshall cabinets aside. It's either 20 or 24. And then we have, 2 bass ribs, one either side, drums in the middle, and that's it really. And we run about 4 Marshall JVMs either side, and that's about the sound, really. Loud.
Yeah, very loud. I would imagine. We love it loud, though. I mean, would you say there's any areas that you like to travel through and tour the most, or is it just one of those things where it's sort of all similar once you're on stage?
No, I think the audiences make the gig special. I think each audience is different. Each audience reacts differently to certain songs. So it's you know, people will say, what's it like, you know, playing Wheels of Steel, you know, every concert since 1980. And I'll go, well, you know, the audience loves Wheels of Steel, so they take Wheels of Steel, and when we play it live, they react to it, and that's the great feeling you get back from the audience. That's what live's all about. It's not really about us playing the songs; it's about being there live with an audience. You know, as you know, we don't use any sound reinforcement on stage, so everything you hear is live. You know, the bass player has some bass pedals, and you might have a few samples like bass synthesizer, you know, an old Moog sample on there, or maybe some voices in bits and pieces, but they're only like little sort of 5-second samples. So everything's totally live, really. So it's great fun.
What are your thoughts on bands who use those sorts of tracks?
I haven't got a problem with it, you know. For me personally, I think the album's the album and live is live. I think trying to reproduce the album live, especially if there's lots of choirs and things and stuff like that, I think in some instances it sounds great. But and obviously if it's a 5-piece band, you know, and on the album it's got orchestras and all sorts of things, then I understand that they want that sound to be what the audience hear. But I'm not really into, you know, singers having voices behind them and things like this. You know, I'm not really into that. But you know, I think it's all right for some bands, but for us, live is where we're at. You know.
Speaking of singing and stuff, like you've been at this for a long time, and your voice sounds fantastic to this day. You know?
Far.
Yeah, so I'm just curious. What do you have any secrets?
So far, it can change in a second, I'm sure. But yeah, I'm lucky. It's doing all right at the moment. Yeah, I mean, I'm singing pretty good at the moment. So yeah, just keep our fingers crossed, really, and hopefully it stays there, because it's flesh and blood, so it can go, you know, anywhere it wants. Really, it's not like a guitar string. You know?
Are there any like remedies that you use when you're on tour?
No, not really. Not really. Try and get as much sleep as you can. That's the secret. I think when you're touring hard and you're up early in the morning, especially if you're flying in, you know, like South America, flying every day, that can really harm your body, basically. So you get a bit fatigued. Oh, yeah. That's a posh word. That's a posh word for knackered. But yeah, you know, so yeah. So you have to be careful and try and just relax as much as you can. You know, I mean, alcohol helps, obviously, to keep you relaxed, but it's not good.
Right.
It's not good for your body. So, you know, it's a fine line, really.
And equal in the decent amounts, you know, it's all about the dosage, I guess.
Yeah, it is. If you go too far, you know, then you feel it the next day, and then you can't bring it back because, you know, you've lost it then if you're touring every day, you know. Yeah. So, yeah, you've got to be careful with the long tours, you know.
No question there. Well, listen, Biff, we really appreciate you taking the time to join us on this episode. Obviously, the project is out for all the Saxon fans, and they've been loving it. What else can the fans expect from you guys coming up?
Well, we've got my son's. I've made an album with my son called Heavy Water. That's out on the 29th of September. So that's the next thing that's coming out there that I'm connected with.
Nice.
It's already getting great reviews, so that should be all right. It's not really heavy metal. It's more heavy rock. You know, the music is coming from my son. I just got together with the lyrics with him. So yeah, that's pretty good. The next thing will be the new album, really, which we're recording now.
Nice.
I'm just doing the things, singing guide vocals on all the tracks for now to do the drums too. And yeah, that should be coming out hopefully in January, just before our arena tour with Judas Priest. So that should be good.
How many songs do we have on the book so far?
We have 10 or 11.
Nice. Wow. So basically a full project.
Yeah. We always have a floating song, you know, just in case something doesn't turn out as well as we think it will. So
right.
So we like 10 songs. We're more quality rather than quantity. That's our motto, you know. I'd rather have 10 great songs than 23 mediocre songs.
Yeah.
100%.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, great. Yeah, keep the faith and carpe diem, and see you soon.
Awesome,
Peace and
Biff.
quiet.
Rock on, man.
See you later.
Get up, everybody's gonna move their feet. Get down, everybody's gonna live their scene. You gotta lose your mind in Detroit, Rock City. Get up.
Huge shout out to Biff Byford of Saxon for joining us on this brand new episode of the Innersleeve Music Podcast. I feel good after watching that, Joe. Again, just so many good vibes. A guy who is no nonsense, and I think just really respects his music and where the music has taken him.
Yeah, and like I remember, like I asked for the thumbnail image for some press photos and stuff, to the publicist, and she's like, "Oh, okay, I'm happy to help you, but which project? Because he's got so
Right.
many going on at once. Which one do you want?" You're like, "Wow, this guy's just living the life, man."
He's
like,
nonstop.
yeah, it's inspiring, man. Because like I've often thought, hey, when I retire at X age, or if I can even retire, I don't know the way inflation and stuff is going.
Yeah.
And it's like, I hope I still have a tenth of that. What do you call that energy and that motivation that he has, man? That would really take me far.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of our interview with D. Snyder. He's like, just do stuff you love every day. He said that's how he stays, young, right? So it's absolutely incredible to see. And we hope you guys enjoyed it on this brand new episode of the Innersleeve Music Podcast. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you did enjoy this episode of the show. Tell a friend about the podcast. And of course, make sure to check us out on our audio platforms. We're on Apple Podcasts and Spotify on the Innersleeve Music Podcast. Make sure to go ahead and look it up. Also catch us on SoundMojo, and make sure to hit the community tab on SoundMojo as well for different polls and questions to see what our audience is listening to. And we're also interactive there. We will make sure to say hello. Also catch us on social media at SoundMojo, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. We're posting constantly, and we always love to see what the people have to say. Thank you so much for tuning into this brand new episode. We will catch you guys next time.